What gets passed off for science today can be rather lackluster and heavily influenced by monetary interests, and most of it is not experimental or even mechanistic, but simply epidemiological so-called evidence. Factually speaking, meat and other animal products have amazing benefits, and a long list of nutrients completely unavailable in the plant kingdom. So don't settle for weak science. Demand real science based on experiments and facts.
Really?
Oh, sure. Say, you should have the little woman swing by my compound for a thorough examination.
You think you can help her?
Oh, I know I can. My science is quite potent.
I've got the prescription for you, Doctor.
When you eat animal products, you will get every nutrient needed by your body. From about 1 million years ago until classical times and even later, there was very little plant-based food in the human diet, and you could best describe ancient Greeks as hypercarnivores. Our ancestors ate surprisingly little plant-based food, much less than I would have believed. However, we can measure this through isotope analysis, and this proves that while we did eat everything that we could get our hands on, the percentage of animal products we ate was close to 100%. Carnosine and carnitine are not available in plants. This is unsurprising given the names. They are both vital for proper brain function, and carnitine is required for fat burning in the body. With no dietary carnitine, you are bound to be metabolically dysfunctional and unable to burn fat properly. This is a big problem because the body normally burns mostly fat, in spite of what exercise quote-unquote scientists will tell you, and fat burns much more cleanly. Carbs produce an inordinate amount of reactive oxygen species, and this drives aging in the body. Without this, we would barely age at all. Carnosine also stops glycation in the body, and that's another major driver of premature aging.
And so here I am,
Now on the
Mr.
treadmill.
Healthy.
Phosphatdylserine is available in some plants, specifically navy beans, but it's in a form that the body can't use directly because it requires animal fat at the end of the molecule to function properly. This is particularly needed for muscle building, but plant-based sources are shown ineffective for this purpose. Choline and properly working phosphatidylcholine are also lacking. These are crucial for the liver, the brain, and your cell membranes. EPA and DHA, aka omega-3 fatty acids, are also lacking, and they are critical for brain function, and also needed in small amounts in the cell membrane. Lack of these nutrients may be responsible for the rapid brain shrinkage people experience on a plant-only diet. Creatine is also absent from plant foods, and while it is considered a muscle booster and to a lesser degree a cognitive booster, it is actually vital for all aspects of human health. Very small amounts in the diet are correlated with very big health benefits, especially for the brain. Epidemiology is very limited as a tool, but in this case the effect size is quite profound. We also have many known mechanisms for these benefits and experimental data which shows benefits for even short-term supplementation for a surprising array of effects. B12 is probably the most famously lacking element in plant-based foods. Without it, your brain will shrink and demyelinate, and you'll die. Worse yet, artificial forms are notoriously difficult to absorb, so supplementing a sufficient amount usually requires an injection.
Not only that, you need these essential nutrients. You need DHA and EPA. You don't just need omega-3s. That's the thing that bugs the hell out of me, is that people say, well, you need omega-3s, so get some flaxseed. No, you don't need just generic omega-3s for your brain. You need specific omega-3s. You need DHA and EPA. That's like saying, well, you just need liquids. Any liquids are fine. because you need water, and water is a liquid. Therefore, you just need liquids. Okay, so vodka and gasoline are fine then. That's what you need. Just anything liquid is fine. Of course not. You need specific liquids. You need specific omega-3s. You need DHA, you need EPA for your brain. 20% of your brain is DHA. And so if you're not getting this from your diet, and we don't really make it very well ourselves, you're going to have a deficiency. And so your brain's not going to work properly. You don't have enough, fat soluble vitamins that come with the animal fats that exclusively exist in animal fats, like D3 and K2. You're not going to be able to function properly. Getting up B12. B12 only exists dietarily in meat. And especially red meat. And you require B12 to myelinate your axons and your nerves. And so when you don't have enough B12, that myelination starts to fray and break down. You get demyelination, and so you get nerve damage. And there's a study out of Oxford in 2008 that showed that people under a certain level of B12, it was like around 330 picomoles per liter, and down after 5 years, they did annual MRI studies, and they found that their brain shrank by 5% volume. And the thing is that that level of B12 is like halfway to 2/3 up the normal reference range. So a good half to 2/3 of that so-called normal reference range is a clear deficiency where people are getting neurological dysfunction, damage, and brain shrinkage. But because so many people are deficient in B12, the reference range is being renormed to match that average, because these reference ranges are not optimal. So your doctor looked at this and goes, oh, well, it's in our range. Well, your range is wrong. Your range is an average. You're treating that as an optimal range. That's what they treat it. As long as it's in our range, that's what we got to do. So you're saying that's optimal. That's the best you can do. And if you go above that, it's too high. You go below that, it's too low. So you want to be in that range. And so they're treating that as an optimal range, but that's not even what it's advertised as. It's advertised as an average range. And the average person is fat, sick, and malnourished.
Few people know it, but it is very common to become deficient in B12 from dieting. The more you diet, the worse it will become, and the less you have in the rest of your diet, the more deficient you'll become as well. When fasting, your body expends less B12, but you should also be sure to get plenty of B12 in the diet when you break a fast, especially when you're fasting regularly. Even eating just a little liver once a month will send your B12 levels sky high, but don't think you have to have it daily like some promote. Oysters, clams, sardines, and mackerel are also high in B12, and they also have a lot of vitamin D. All of these are great for breaking a fast if you can get your hands on them. Just keep the carbs low or absent while you take them, because plant-based anti-nutrients are going to block the absorption of these vitamins. B12 is a nutrient you may not have heard of, but it's found mainly in liver. Your body can make some, but as with all such processes, the ability lessens with age. In fact, there are over 50 substances that could be classified as conditionally essential B vitamin-like nutrients which are found in liver. I wouldn't recommend excessive liver consumption, but adding a bit once or twice a week, or even just once a month, would probably have benefits we don't even know about, because most of these substances are totally unstudied. B13 is also known as orotic acid and is present in milk in small amounts. It is vital for helping the body expel things like heavy metals and excessive amounts of uric acid. Many governments encourage nuclear workers, astronauts, and those in heavy industry who are exposed to toxins to take milk daily, but somehow these benefits just don't matter as much for the common citizen. Lactoferrin is a nutrient in both human and bovine milk, and this stimulates the immune system and helps with gut health a great deal. A leaky gut can lead to milk intolerance, but ironically, it is one of the most healing foods for the gut in the long term, so long as it is full-fat milk, and it will work out even better if it's raw milk, because it's not going to lose any of this lactoferrin, which is a somewhat delicate protein. Vitamin A is not found except in animal products. Retinol from plants is bio-unavailable and only poorly converts to vitamin A. Vitamin A is critical for fertility, eye health, skin health, moisturization, and much more. If you eat animal products regularly, you're probably getting enough, but it is simply impossible to get enough in the diet without them. I've talked about taurine many times, and of course taurine is absent from plant products, and it's needed for all protein synthesis, and it does an endless variety of tasks in the body, and it's especially useful in the immune system. The effects of taurine deficiency are manifold, and it takes generations of proper nutrition to totally reverse them. Vitamin D can be had from the sun and from animal fat if the animal has sun exposure, but it can't be found in plants. D is vital for human life, but most people today would have to supplement or get a sun lamp to get a proper level. DHAA, or dehydroascorbic acid, is the real form of vitamin C that your body can actually absorb, and that's the one that's found in animal products. While British, Portuguese, and Spanish explorers and soldiers got scurvy, this never happened to Northern European explorers, which I didn't know until recently. One group ate hardtack, which is essentially saltine crackers, which has no vitamins in it at all, while the Northern Europeans ate salted fish and meat only. It is promoted there is no vitamin C in meat, but assays from over 100 years ago, when these claims were made, only looked at ascorbic acid, and this is the plant form which is unusable in the human body until it's converted to DHAA. DHAA is 100,000 times more absorbable through the gut than ascorbic acid, and is the only vitamin C our ancestors had reliable access to during the Ice Age that lasted about 1 million years. In fact, it is absorbed 1,000 times more readily than glucose is, which is one of the most readily absorbed substances. So it would be farcical to think this is anything but a critical nutrient for the body.
Supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses, not from some farcical aquatic ceremony.
While there's iron in some plants, it is largely unabsorbable. It is also damaging and oxidizing in plant form. Heme iron is the form found in animal products, and it's safe to consume without causing massive oxidative stress, which is what happens when you have iron oxide, which is used as an enrichment in foods like bread. Many food products like bread are fortified with the most damaging form, and also with unnatural forms of B vitamins that just don't have the same chemical products and are very difficult to absorb. Zinc exists only in small amounts in plant products and tends to get pushed out by other minerals, or else it is bound up with oxalates or blocked by chemicals like phytic acid. Without lots of zinc, our ability to create metallothionein is reduced, and we are open to contamination from all kinds of heavy metals and other toxins. Glycine. While there is some glycine in plant products, levels are very low. In fact, even meat today tends to be low compared to what we ate just a century ago, due to the lack of eating skin and broth. Without broth or nibbling on raw bones and skin, we simply can't get these levels anymore. It also has hundreds of uses in the body, especially for the mitochondria, and supplementing it can get mitochondria functioning like those of a newborn. So like taurine, it is vital to either supplement or take special dietary measures that are not very easy to implement today. The C15 saturated fat pentadecylic acid is a very popular fad supplement today. This is an essential fatty acid which is needed in small amounts in cell membranes. Otherwise, the membranes just don't work properly, and this is going to lead to increased rates of all kinds of diseases, especially heart disease. If you consume milk regularly, you will probably get plenty of pentadecylic acid, but if you only eat muscle meat, it's possible you are just not getting enough, or at least not an optimal amount. If you only eat plant-based foods, then you're not getting any at all. That means it's yet one more thing that you'd have to be supplementing if you're having a plant-only diet or a diet with little or no animal products. The little-known omega-7 fatty acid palmitoleic acid is a conditionally essential fatty acid that's also available in milk in small amounts in analog form. Though it is available in some refined plant oils like extra virgin olive oil, It would have been completely unavailable to most of the world until a few thousand years ago. It is also in the medicinal sea buckthorn berry from China, but this is only available outside of China in the last century or so, and it's really not very common in the diet even today. Palmitoleic acid has many interesting properties, especially when it comes to inflammation, metabolic health, and more, so it is not something you want to leave out of your diet. This is just one more reason that full-fat milk and dairy are such an important part of the diet, and unfortunately many people neglect them today. Lecithin is a phospholipid important for the brain. Though it can be made out of soybean, this doesn't have the same properties as animal-based lecithin that is found in animal fat and organs. As such, you're better off getting this from egg yolk and other animal-based sources. And if you do get it from the soy route, then you're also going to be getting all kinds of other contaminants most likely. Hyaluronic acid is found in both human and bovine milk in small amounts, and in some raw organs which our ancestors would have eaten. There's also small amounts in chicken feet and cockscomb, so you might get some in chicken noodle soup. Hyaluronic acid can be made in the body, but this ability declines with age and does not produce optimal levels. Supplementing hyaluronic acid had remarkable benefits for my knees, which used to constantly creak when climbing stairs. And it has a lot of other effects in the body too. It's not just for your joints, but also for your eyes and for your skin, and even for the immune system and liver support. Cholesterol is demonized today and is not considered a nutrient at all by the mainstream, but it is critically important for brain health, muscle building, and much more. The less dietary cholesterol we have in the body, the more likely it is that damaging plant sterols will replace cholesterol in our cell membranes and critical cells such as neurons in the brain, which are not easy to replace. This causes a great deal of problems. Cholesterol is also used by the body to fight cancer and fight off infections, as an antioxidant, and for repairing physical damage in the body.
Well, we've been talking about cholesterol, so maybe we better talk about what it is. What is cholesterol? Most people think cholesterol is a fat, but it's actually more like a wax. It's a sterile molecule. It's made by almost every cell in the body. Its key role is to make cells waterproof. It's in your cell membranes, and it plays the same role that cellulose does in plants. It makes the cells, gives them a stiffness that they're supposed to have, an integrity, and it makes them waterproof so there can be a different chemistry on the inside and the outside of the cell. Cholesterol is nature's healing substance. It repairs wounds. There's a lot of cholesterol in scar tissue. And it repairs tears in the arteries. If you have very weak arteries prone to tears, your body makes a lot of cholesterol as a repair substance. And blaming cholesterol, high cholesterol levels for heart disease is sort of like blaming the fireman who put out the fire. Gosh, every time we have a fire, there are firemen there, so the firemen must be causing the fires. That is the logic that's blaming cholesterol. Cholesterol is the precursor to vitamin D, which is a very important vitamin. The bile salts that your body uses for digesting fats are made from cholesterol. Important hormones are made from cholesterol, and we all hear a lot about antioxidants today. One of the most powerful antioxidants in your body is cholesterol. It protects the body against free radicals. And finally, cholesterol is essential for the development and function of the brain and nervous system, and is needed for the proper function of the serotonin receptors in the brain. Now, serotonin is the body's feel-good chemical, and when your cholesterol levels are low, that feel-good chemical cannot work, and people end up being depressed or antisocial.
Though today supplements of vitamin K2 are made from soy, which has been fermented, this is not present without fermentation and was not a normal part of the diet in very much of the world until very recently. And before modern agriculture, it wasn't a part of the diet at all. It's been theorized in recent times by several sources that the main driver of heart disease is actually K2 deficiency due to dietary changes in the last century, i.e. much more processed food and much more plant food. The source for K2 most of our ancestors made use of was always animal fat until just a few years ago. The source in animal fat is also different than what's found in fermented beans, and it is really this kind that the body can make use of. The plant form can be converted by most people into that kind over time, but not by everyone, and it has a cost. This is yet another nutrient that the body can't live without, which simply doesn't exist in the plant kingdom without the intervention of man. Alpha GPC, or L-alpha glycerylphosphorylcholine, is an important chemical found in human and animal brains, which simply does not exist in plants. Of course, most people today don't eat many organs, let alone brains, but this is nutrition our ancestors got on a daily basis. Whatever you may think of your ancestry, the fact is that everyone on Earth used to have much larger brains than almost everyone today, and they were stronger as well. I am sure genetic variance matters, but I am even more sure that the decline in our nutrition is the main reason for the decline in our physical and mental capabilities, not to mention behavior.
What is this? A center for ants? How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
Astaxanthin is a nutrient found mainly in seafood that our brain goes to great lengths to hold on to. Although it is cultured in algae to make supplements today, these plants are not a part of the normal human diet. People who eat seafood regularly probably get a decent amount already, but there's definitely room for supplementation due to its neuroprotective effects. If you don't eat any animal products, then you simply aren't getting any in the diet whatsoever. That's yet another way that plant foods spell bad news for your brain in particular. It amazes me how much people harp on about ascorbic acid, even though it turns into oxalate in the body when it's consumed. But the truth is, it is a dubious antioxidant at best, and very large amounts are not something you want. And the only real purpose it serves in the human body is to add hydroxyl groups to proline so the body can make collagen. TUDCA, or tauroursodeoxycholic acid, is yet another nutrient found only in animal products. This is a bile acid produced in animal livers, which has amazing benefits for the liver. It is even given in hospitals for liver failure. Tauro part stands for taurine, because that's what it's made out of in the body, and it's required to make it internally. But your body tends to lose this ability with age, just like all of these other processes. For most people, supplementing taurine is enough, but if you have serious liver concerns, or if you're older, then a little TUDCA is just what the doctor ordered. Since plants don't have a liver or a gallbladder, then none of them contain it. Glucuronolactone is an important part of all connective tissue, and is part of the natural human diet in small amounts. It can be supplemented, and it is a common ingredient in energy drinks, but it's unclear just how beneficial it is to consume. It is sold as a liver-protecting agent in Japan. Unlike Western governments, Japan actually spends a great deal on nutritional research because this reduces medical costs and it keeps their workers and citizens healthy. Japanese studies suggest it may be beneficial for cognition and even for exercise performance. Your body can produce it internally, but as with all substances, this ability declines with age, and it may not occur at optimal levels in everyone in the first place. Chitosan is kind of similar to hyaluronic acid, and it comes mainly from shellfish. It helps a lot with digestive health in particular, and also wound healing, and it may help with joints and other issues as well. It is also touted to be a weight loss agent, but if this is true, then it's probably something that has a minor effect. I don't want to go off into too much of a tangent here, but it's just one more of the little known nutrients that plant munchers are simply missing out on. I don't recommend Condroitin as a supplement because it usually comes from contaminated shark cartilage, but many people swear by it for relief from joint pain, and you're also going to get this in a lot of soups if they're using the whole bone. So you're probably getting some of this in chicken noodle soup and oxtail soup and so on anyway. Your body has chondroitin in many places, including the hair and cartilage, so it does make sense that supplementing it would encourage optimal levels in the body. And of course, chondroitin comes only from animal sources. You've probably heard of the supplement beta-alanine if you pay any attention to sports nutrition. This is an amino acid precursor found in animal products in small amounts that the body uses to create carnosine, a critically important nutrient in the body. I would not worry about it as a performance enhancer, though it might help with certain sports. It boosts energy in the zone in between where creatine works and where glycogen kicks in, so it's kind of in a no man's land as far as usefulness in sports goes, but there could be some sport I'm not thinking of where it's just vitally important. But I would speculate that this could have a neuroprotective effect in the brain, since neurons just don't have access to glycogen, and this is also why creatine is so important for the brain. Regardless, it's a dietary component, and small amounts supplemented will ensure you have plenty of carnosine in the body, and neither carnosine nor beta-alanine exist in plant foods. Pyroglutamic acid is another little-known dietary nutrient used as a supplement. In fact, I don't think I'd ever heard of it before I stumbled on it earlier while I was compiling this list. Apparently, glutathione eventually becomes pyroglutamic acid, which then performs more functions within the brain, which are very important, almost as important as glutathione itself. This is marketed as a nootropic agent or a cognition booster, but I'm guessing its effect would be more neuroprotective than anything else. It also seems to act as an ACE inhibitor, which would lead one to believe it can lower blood pressure to some degree as well. And there's a lot of reason to think this is true because you get very low blood pressure when you get poisoning from taking too much Tylenol. And when you do that, your pyroglutamic acid levels go through the roof. And this apparently is the agent that causes you to go into system shock, and this is actually what ends your life if you have too much Tylenol and get liver failure. So you probably don't want to get it in that manner, but I would guess that you're probably also going to get this effect to some degree if you take it directly. I didn't expect to get a new supplement to look into from this list, but this really looks like another good thing to be taking, and if you're having animal products, you're going to be getting it directly. Also, I would say that this is a way to directly supplement glutathione in some sense, because glutathione taken in the diet doesn't really do anything, and that's why you take L-cysteine or NAC, and that's part of why you take glycine as well, because that's also used to make it. But if you take the pyroglutamic acid directly, you're getting a lot of the benefits of glutathione without all of the problems of glutathione. PQQ is another nutrient found only in animal products. If my voice just changed, that's because I forgot to add this one in until later, and I'm trying out some new audio equipment which will hopefully be better in the long term. PQQ, or pyrroloquinoline quinone, quite a tongue twister, is in many bacteria, and it's present in small amounts in dairy. Like astaxanthin, this is yet another unique antioxidant that's only available in animal products. And it has a strong affinity for the brain, and it's highly conserved within your cells. That means it can be used over and over again, just like astaxanthin. It also does much more than that and has been promoted as a longevity supplement. I'm not sure how much I buy the longevity part, but it definitely has a lot of health benefits. I haven't used this one, but it's probably worth taking for many people, and I'm sure I'll do a video on it at some point, and I probably will start using it soon because I'm not quite as young as I used to be. Now, none of these nutrients are found in plants in a functional form at all, except for zinc, which is not sufficiently present or bioavailable. I was actually shocked at the results, as I never really sat down and thought of all the nutrients in animal products that plants simply don't have before. I expected maybe 20, but I actually came up with over 30 nutrients that are simply unavailable, even if we take zinc off this list. While plants are very deficient in zinc, it still does exist to some degree. And if we count vitamin B-like substances found in the liver, which are similar to orotic acid, which in my opinion is a very good supplement, then we get about 50 more nutrients simply unavailable in the plant kingdom, most of which are little studied and could have lots of health benefits. Some of these nutrients are critical and obvious, like B12, EPA, DHA, carnosine, and carnitine. Others are deficient in virtually all modern diets, such as taurine and glycine. Others have significant evidence that their presence is absolutely necessary for good health and normal function, such as creatine and astaxanthin. And most people today simply don't get enough, and many of them don't get any. Others are quite obscure, but have very important roles to play in the body, and are not always made at optimal levels, such as pyroglutamic acid. Some, like cholesterol and orotic acid, are not considered nutritional elements at all by the mainstream, but are critical for your health. I am truly awestruck by the complexity and nuance of the human body, and by how many nutrients we take totally for granted on a day-to-day basis. I am also struck by the hubris of those who would push an artificial kibble diet, not only onto ourselves, but also onto their own children, and how they even make preposterous health claims about a plant-based diet that fly in the face of reason, and they're based on pseudoscientific pap. Carnosine and carnitine, Phosphatidylserine and phosphatidylcholine, vitamin B12, EPA and DHA, or Docosahexaenoic acid and Eicosapentaenoic acid, creatine, orotic acid, and other B vitamin analogs that have benefits we may not even know about, Lactoferrin, vitamin A, taurine, vitamin D, DHAA or dehydroascorbic acid, heme iron, glycine, the C15 saturated fat pentadecylic acid, the little-known omega-7 fatty acid palmitoleic acid, lecithin, hyaluronic acid, cholesterol, vitamin K2, alpha GPC or L-alpha glycerylphosphorylcholine, astaxanthin, TUDCA or tauroursodeoxycholic acid, Glucuronolactone, Chitosan, Condroitin, beta-alanine, pyroglutamic acid, and even NMN. Yes, that's right. NMN is also found in milk, so that's another nutrient that we're simply missing out on if we don't have any animal-based products. If you eat from the American Diabetes Pyramid or from the Canadian Food Rainbow, or worse yet, the World Health Organization starvation protocols that call for a diet of 7 grams of meat per day or less, you'll get almost none of these nutrients. If you don't eat animal products at all, you won't get any of them except for some zinc. And you're going to be highly deficient in it because it gets pushed out by copper and also by any other electrolytes to some degree except for salt. But if you eat like our ancestors did, then you'll have a plethora of nutrients.
What is a plethora?
Why, Wapo?
I would not like to think that a person would tell someone he has a plethora and find out that that person has no idea what it means to have a plethora.
Unfortunately, our institutions and most health and diet influencers promote nothing but nonsense. Aside from nutritional deficiency and plant sterol issues, plant-based foods today are not what they were even 50 years ago, let alone thousands of years ago. Arsenic and glyphosate are a big problem even in organic grains. Fruits are picked before they ripen, which makes them low in vitamin and polyphenol content. They're also grown in depleted soil, which means they're low in mineral content. They're often irradiated and coated in toxic wax substances full of heavy metals, even though they're labeled organic. This creates free radicals in your food that drive aging and other disease, completely reversing the supposed antioxidant properties that many people are eating the fruit for in the first place. In short, if it's not grown in your backyard, you might want to just skip it, especially if it is full of grain grown in China, which uses the banned pesticide quormquat, which destroys your mitochondria and leads to cancer. You can assume most packaged foods have this issue because it's a global food supply chain, but Quaker Oats is especially known for being entirely produced in China. So remember that marketing is meaningless, and animal products that are minimally processed are the only ones we can truly trust today, And even then, you're going to do much better if it's grass-fed and truly organic. And best yet, if you raise the chickens yourself and eat their eggs, or have your own milk cow.
Thank you. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for bringing us into your homes and into your hearts for nearly 150 years.
Dad, no! It's gonna kill you!
I've had a good run.
Take him into custody, boys. Ha!